Welcome to the Shay Spark Show, where we talk to military and business leaders on what it means to invest in people. I am your host, Shay Sparks. I'm the co founder of the Maker's Machine Inner Circle, where we're not just your typical networking group. We challenge each other and ignite ideas into real, meaningful change. So, are you ready to dive in and ignite your inspiration with this amazing leader? Well, then, let's get you fired up. My guest today is the amazing Julie Deem. Julie, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here, Shay.
Well, I'm excited to have you. And I got to give a shout out to the PodConnect people over at PodFest who connected us originally. Was that this year, the beginning of this year?
Yeah, it had to be. It had to be this year.
It's so funny how we're in the end, like the last quarter, getting ready to start the last quarter, end of third quarter, and it's flown by. It's so fast this year.
I agree. I agree with you. And I'm thinking, yeah, it feels like I've known you for years.
I know. I know. And then we were both speakers at Podfest and then didn't even get a chance to meet in person.
That's how we can confirm that we met after the year because Podfest was in January and we met
That's right.
after that.
That's right. And now you're a part of our Maker's Machine Inner Circle. And so I'm glad to have you on and excited to dive in and share your story.
Same.
So, for those of you who don't know, Julie Deem is a podcaster, podcast manager, and the founder of the Business Podcast Editor. She helps individuals and businesses grow their podcast with customized strategies to increase impact. See why we're friends? Julie hosts two, not just one, but two successful podcasts: United State of Women, empowering women to embrace their purpose, and Not Your Mom's Sales Podcast, helping businesses leverage podcasting as a marketing tool. And in her free time, Julie mentors young survivors of trafficking with the nonprofit Allies Incorporated and loves spending time with her two beautiful daughters. She's passionate about empowering others to find their voice in the podcasting world. And there's so many synergies and alignment, which is why Julie and I are friends and you run in the same circles together. So, Julie, I always like to start off with the first question of what does investing in people mean to you?
You know, I've thought about this a lot after reading the book, The Last Lecture. Have you ever read
Mm.
that book?
No, I have not.
It's about a professor at Carnegie who was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And he decides to write what universities call the last lecture, which they will often put together a lecture for their students on what they would say to their students if they knew their life was coming to an end.
Mm,
And since he was actually facing that, he wanted to expand on that. And so he decided to write this book to leave behind lessons that, were little seeds for his children that were essentially his future legacy. And so when I think about impact, right, and what we're doing for people and how we're serving, I've started to view that as my own legacy, right? And what we're pouring into everyone is having its ripple effect. And I picture, like, at the end of the day, sitting in heaven and like having a conversation with God and Him showing not just the big moments in your life, but those little things that you did to make an impact and pour into somebody else and what that ripple effect looked like for that person.
mm, I love that. That reminds me of a song that I used to have on repeat many years ago. It's called Thank You. I cannot remember who the artist is, but he talks about that when we get to heaven, there's not just the people that you inspired in, like you said, in the big moments, but there's a long line of people that we inspire that we don't even realize. And they're saying thank you to us.
Yeah. And to know that you didn't know it at the time, but now you get to see it and see what that looked like for that person is a driving motivator for me. It's like whether it's smiling at somebody that you pass in the aisle at the grocery store or thanking somebody for holding your door open. Like you don't think about it in these moments, but I think there's going to be a full circle moment where you're like, man, every single person you touched in your life, what did that look like for them? And how did it affect their life going forward?
Mm, I agree. In fact, one of the things that comes to mind is the phrase day maker. And so what you're really talking about is how you made a choice, a decision to become a day maker, to make somebody else's day just by, like you said, smiling at them. So, was there something that inspired you to really make that conscious decision to choose that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because on the outside, I think it's easy for people to look at someone like myself and think, oh gosh, she's so extroverted, she's so warm, she's so approachable. It's very easy for her to go and smile casually at a stranger at the grocery store when the reality is that's not who I am. That is not my personality. I would identify myself as like more of a wallflower. I don't want to be in the circle of the dance party. I want to just watch and maybe kind of groove a little bit over here and have fun. But again, that book, it really shifted my perspective. But beyond the book, my motivation to take action really came from a place of wanting to live a more purposeful life. And what did that look
Mm.
like for myself? And so I started a gratitude practice about a year ago where every time I go through a threshold, an entryway of some sort, I remind myself that I am thankful to be here and I'm grateful to serve. And I really want God to just use me in this moment.
Mm.
And so when I would normally skip the aisle where the person was, like, reaching for the top shelf, I'm proactively, like, engaging with that person and, like, looking for the opportunity to help. "Do you need that on the top shelf?" Before I would be like, "Oh, I'll just wait for them to make awkward eye contact with me." I would go to the U-Scan because I didn't wanna talk to the cashier. "Oh, she's gonna ask me how my kids are doing. Oh, your girls are getting so much bigger every day." Like, "Yeah, they do." Well, okay, they're people too. And if it means taking 10 seconds to like acknowledge that somebody's, asking you about your day and asking them back, the reciprocation in the mirror and the opportunity to see somebody became a lot more important to me. And I felt this shift within myself where it's like, you don't have to sit on stage at Podfest speaking to hundreds of people to create an impact. You could really just be here and acknowledge somebody in this moment and make them feel so special that you took the time to even ask them how they're doing.
Mm. I think that's the definition of service, right? Is it doesn't matter the grandeur of impact. It's about starting with the one.
Right. And and in stepping out of that comfort zone, Shay, the opportunities became so abundant, right? Like, I was living this world thinking, like, nobody wants me to bother them, and, nobody notices if you skipped their grocery line that day and went to the U-Scan, to proactively engaging with people in a different way that it grew something within myself, right? Now
Mhm.
now, the talking to a new sales prospect feels less scary because I'm talking to regular strangers regularly, right? The
Yeah.
the the impact of people, we have a hard time asking for help, but now you don't mind asking for help or like, what do you need? And finding those resources, everything starts to compound faster, right? Because you made that decision to be extra grateful that day and more proactive with seeking out ways to show up for people. People are showing up for you in a different way.
It's so true. I mean, it's funny how when you make this choice, and I love that you were inspired by a book to do so. I think sometimes, we're inspired by a life, not just life threatening things, right? We get inspired by books or movies. Pay It Forward, back in the day, that movie, that was really life changing for me, going, you know what? We can be nice to others just for the simple fact of paying it forward. It doesn't have to be reciprocated. And because then it is natural reciprocation rather than a forced. And so, which brings us back to that service. So, have you always had this full mindset of faith and service instilled in you, even at like back when you were younger? Or is it something that you've just evolved into as you have been serving in the podcast world?
For sure. Something I've had to develop. I think it's like a skill, like a muscle. When you're younger, you're probably more, serving yourself.
Mm.
And as you kind of learn that the world isn't really just about you, you start to, learn what that looks like in the outside world, right? And so I became a massage therapist at 18, did not have any desire to actually massage people. I wanted some quick cash, you
Mm.
know? that wasn't my motivation to go heal the world and put my
Yeah.
hands on people. I was like, this is 9 months of school. They give me tips and cash. Like, I'm 18. I want to live on my own. This is going to be fast. I'm going to hustle my butt off. So I think
Yeah.
the hustler part of me was around when I was young.
Mhm.
The the compassion that came from being a massage therapist is something that I didn't expect to uncover as a natural strength for myself. To be somebody that can be with somebody in those moments. It's not just people getting massages because they're rich and they want relaxation. I'm there when they have nobody in their life and they're finding out they have cancer for the first time, or,
Mhm.
they go through a significant loss in their life. You get it, Shay, coming from your background, especially.
Yeah.
You don't expect to receive what you do out of that kind of a career.
Mm.
Right, and so I think my heart to serve really started to come out in those moments. I always knew I enjoyed volunteering. Going to the breast cancer 5K run. Oh, yeah, look at me showing my support. Those were things that, I think naturally were appealing to me,
Mhm.
but the opportunity to be with people one-on-one and, like, pour into them and serve in a different capacity really came out of massage, and I think that was a natural skill that helped me in sales when I started the business podcast editor. I
Mm.
can see you in these sales. I could see you in your business. I can see why podcasting is a great opportunity for you in this moment, and being able to close that gap with that person and walk alongside them. It's the same thing in mentorship. Knowing that you're not alone and me being able to tell you, like, I'm going to be here with you, it is a special gift that I don't take lightly. And I love that I've been able to continue to grow in it and build this organic trust with just strangers.
Mm. Yes, we are totally kindred spirits. As a 19-year-old going to cosmetology school, I quickly learned that it is there. You're like you said, the word compassion. There is this, I don't know how to describe it other than when you go through a massage therapy school, cosmetology school, any industry where it's service based industry. Even I think sometimes servers, like in restaurants, don't get this. I think it has something to do with being able to, you are spending at least an hour or more with that person, where sometimes you're the only person they have spoken to for the week. And to have this, it's almost, to me, it's almost like a soul gift of service that you're giving them. You then become, it's such your purpose, right? Serving others becomes part of who your DNA, it becomes your purpose, to where it's so natural that, like you said, the sales is just offering them more service, connecting with them on a deeper level. And then I love the faith part that comes in to see, hey, are we in alignment? And you didn't use that word, but I'm gonna use that word. Are you in alignment with what you do? So is there, if someone's listening to this, because I know some of our audiences is in the transition phase of employee to entrepreneur. So if they're listening to this and they're like, yeah, that's how I feel at work, do you have any advice for them to help them with that service, to help them look deeper into that purpose, and add in the alignment piece?
You know, this is such a complex question because I think from one perspective, I think there's a natural fear of like juggling your professional relationships with now trying to do this quote unquote side hustle, maybe what the world might consider a passion project, and actually like feeling like you have to convince other people that you want to do this more seriously, but being afraid to actually own it because you have this like full-time income that's you don't want to step on anybody's feet. You don't want to hurt any relationships. But I've learned through having a career and then switching into an entrepreneurial position that you can have both. I
Mm.
mean, it's come up now in our podcast mastermind a few times. Like you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
The way you're looking at this from a standpoint of like, oh man, this could hurt relationships is not the right mindset. Like Look at
Mm,
how collaboratively you can make this work for yourself while also being transparent, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to support you in the best way they can. And if you're not communicating what you actually want, it makes it confusing for everybody around you.
mm. Yeah, and when there's confusion, there is no money energy exchange. We'll put it that way.
True, true.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to pursue entrepreneurial life and you want to go all in, just own it. Be more direct about it. Don't be shy about it and start taking the right steps to making that your more purpose-driven goal right now, right? And you can still manage those relationships in your career, and you can also be okay telling people like, "Hey, this is something that I do care about."
So, as a massage therapist, you're typically, I'm guessing, because I talk to my massage therapist ear off, but I'm guessing that you're probably more quiet and just allow your client to talk. So how did you get interested in podcasting where you're like, wow, I don't talk enough all day and I want to talk more? Or was it something else that happened?
Yeah, in 2018, I attended a women's power brunch here in Kokomo, Indiana. And I had been wanting to go to the brunch for a couple of years, but the idea of spending money to like go to a women's brunch sounded corny to me. Like, honestly, I was like, leadership development, women's empowerment, whoop de doo. Gonna go hang out with a bunch of ladies that are really rich and probably really mean. Like, honestly, I was really nervous about it. And so I watched this event come and go for a couple of years before I decided to get involved. And 2 weeks before the event, I knew the person who started it and was the organizer and all the things, and she went to my church, and so I'm like, "I hear her on the radio. I've been hearing about this event for a couple years. I'll just reach out to her directly and see if she has any, like, volunteer spots, because 'cause I'm not spending money on a ticket, but maybe she's got somebody and she can plug me, right?" Like, that's
Yeah.
how not serious I was taking this. I'm just letting the audience know, like, I was like,
Yeah.
"Mm." So, she was like, "I can get you a spot at registration opening the doors for our guests when they walk in."
Mm.
That's a good spot for me to be, because if I'm not volunteering and I'm not in a position to talk, that's forcing me to talk to people and engage with them. Like, let me remind you what I was saying earlier with this gratitude practice, right? This is not something that's my zone of genius, talking to strangers. I had to really develop that. So putting me in a position where I had to open doors for people and say, "Hey," I was like, this is good. Like, I will not waste my time being here all day. I'll actually talk to people. I'm in a good spot where I can see who's coming in, learn their names, learn what they do. And she goes, "Yeah, if you're interested, I can get you doing that." And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to." And she goes, "That's great. Tanya, she's in charge of registration. She also goes to my church. She'll be reaching out to you at church and she'll get $50 from you. That'll cover your ticket."
Oh, okay.
It's like,
But you still had to pay for the ticket.
"I'll have to pay for the ticket." So, as I went to the brunch, I felt so inspired.
Mm.
I had also started listening to podcasts that year, and I thought, how cool would it be to start a podcast here in Kokomo where we interview women in executive leadership roles and we spotlight our town on a podcast and we showcase like how leadership works, but we're also showcasing our own community.
Mm-hmm.
So the following year, 2019, when we had the brunch, we had already launched a full season, and we opened season 2 with a live recording at the brunch where we stood on stage and we had 6 C-suite women in our community on the stage, like full group interview, panel interview.
Nice. Good for
And
you.
yeah.
Congratulations.
So that's where
Ha-
podcasting, I feel like the interviewing piece too, like, with the massage therapist, kind of like service based, you're like, I'm used to asking questions.
Right. Right. So how did it feel to have that full circle moment? Like here you are wanting to go to this event and now you're on stage leading the
I
interviews.
know. It's crazy. Kalina, the organizer of the event, she goes, "This girl went from the front door to the front stage." That's her
Oh,
story.
I
She always,
love that. I love that. That sounds like a book for you, Julie.
oh,
I
and
love
she
that.
loves, we love, it's a great story. It is a good story. And it's just a chapter, right? I think that was 2019. That was 6 years ago. We didn't know the pandemic was coming. That shut our event down. We had to transition from recording in studio to understanding what remote recording looked like, to understanding that we didn't have to just amplify women's voices in our own community. What does that look like globally?
Right. Right. And where did you go from that? From the from the front stage, what was your next step? Where else have you?
Yeah. That's literally where we started bringing people into Australia. That's when I started, when the world shut down, I started applying to speak at Podfest. I was like, well, let me share my skills that I've learned with other people to see if they want to start doing this. You know, this has been such a fun thing for me to do, and it's opened so many doors for me. Surely there's other people that want to know what we know.
Mm. I just want to highlight something here for the audience that they may not have caught. You remember Julie said she wasn't an outgoing, outspoken person. And now here she is, like literally on stage speaking, not just having the interview, but she's also presenting. Wow. That's also a full circle moment.
Right. It's crazy because, like, again, I said, you know, it's so easy to think like, wow, she makes that look so easy, or wow, that's so like her thing. And you're like, no, really, like inside me is like, oh, I don't want it.
What would that little kid have said that was full of herself or insecure of yourself and going, I don't, I'm too shy to speak in front of people.
Yeah. I think just like seeing it on the other side, they would know like your voice is too important to not share what you have on your mind, right? I think, understanding that not everybody's going to get the same prompts that you have in life. But it's our job to listen to those voices and lean into it because on the other side of it is something so beautiful that we would have never known could be possible if we didn't go.
Mhm. Mm. Now, you said the inner voice. I want to clarify that it's the positive inner voice, not the negative one.
Right. Lean into the
Yeah.
positivity.
Yeah, lean into that one. And truthfully, the negative one is that took over my life for most of my life, is that inner negative voice. And this is why, again, we're so in synergistic um, way, because for me, it's really about our voice. You know, how do we use our voice to ourselves? How we use our voice to ask for what we want or what we need, or say, hey, can I be a volunteer? And, just put yourself out there. And then you are sharing your legacy when you share your wisdom. And our voice is meant for that. Our voice is our legacy.
It's true. Kalina had to sit me down, in the middle of our first season of recording because she asked me, what it looked like if I were to find my own voice. And
Mm.
we had a really emotional conversation because up until that point, I would go and, pull the principles from Brendan Burchard or grab something from John Maxwell. And I was like, well, we should talk about this. This is a great subject. Oh my gosh, these are the 5 resources, the 5 tools that we can do to blah. And I was so excited to talk about different things. But she, at some point, she goes, you're going to have to find your own voice too. And so I
Mm.
had to really sit with that because up until that point, I wasn't even comfortable calling myself a podcaster.
Wow.
I had
Even though,
been,
was this after you had been on stage?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
In my head, this was Kalina's thing. I'm a supporting role. I didn't even feel comfortable calling myself a co-host. Like, this is her show. I'm just here doing the interview. I'm just here doing the editing. I'm just here scheduling
Mhm.
the episodes. Like, I'm geeking out over the technical pieces of this, and I'm bringing her in to talk about these things because she's the expert, like, not me.
Mm.
And so there was, even when I launched the business podcast editor, there was still a lot of reservation around calling myself an expert in podcasting.
Mhm.
To me, an expert has been doing this for 20 years. I don't even like public speaking. I'm not an expert. So I think, it's a journey, right? And
Yeah.
you get there. You get there. And so it's I don't even know if I answered your question, but I think at the end of the day, you grow through it and you don't know what that's going to look like on the other side.
Mhm. Yeah, you grow through what you go through, right?
Facts.
Yeah. So how did you find your voice?
Yeah. How did I find my voice? I had to really take some time and reflect on who I was and who I am and understand that that changes.
Mm,
And you have to be okay with that. So, what you might be comfortable talking about today, let's say it's resiliency, you know, I might be going through a resilient season and I might feel very resilient. And I might want to talk about how resilience is an abundant, overflowing thing that we can just grow and grow and grow. But I will also share that last month at Global Leadership Summit, I learned that there is such thing as a resilient ceiling.
mhm,
And that maybe instead of pursuing resilience, we should be pursuing persistence and
mm,
perseverance. And what does that look like if we reframe our lifestyle to understanding that instead of being resilient people, we become shatterproof people?
I love that.
And so, if finding your own voice means being comfortable with what season you're in and being comfortable talking about it and letting people see what that looks like from your perspective, people are
Mm,
going to find you. You're going to relate to people and they're going to relate to you. And you don't have to be caught up on if I'm doing it right or if that's what everybody wants to hear, because who wants to hear it is going to find out and they're going to want to hear it.
mm. I absolutely love what you just said. You have to be comfortable with the season that you're in, which reminds me of when I'm coaching some of my clients who, especially when they've come out of military and back into civilian life, we become attached to the identity that we've been given, right? The role, the rank, the title. And when that is gone, then it's like, well, who are we now? And I think that the journey of that discovering, well, who are we? Who are we now? Who do we want to be? That journey isn't discussed enough because I feel like everyone needs to experience that and they really grow through having that process, having that journey, because now they're getting to define themselves rather than having the definition put on them. And that's exactly what you did. You said, you know what? I am going to be the person who speaks on stages. I'm going to call myself an expert because I can.
It's true. I mean, nobody has once ever like looked at me and said, "No, she don't talk to her. She really doesn't know what she's talking about." Yeah. I have never felt that feeling, and so I think it's just in your head and it's normal feelings. It's normal feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is a great moment to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, which is actually what Julie and I have been talking about. What part of what we are a part of. It is called the Makers Machine Inner Circle. It is for purpose driven entrepreneurs and creators. And we have come together inside a community that really is a mastermind. We help each other out on our most challenging issues. We hold each other accountable to our goals and what we're doing, and we celebrate each other's wins. I mean, how many times have you had a birthday party for yourself and you invited all your friends, right? And how many times have you gone to a birthday party just to celebrate the birthday person? Well, that's what we do every week. And the thing is you would be surprised how many people don't want to share their wins. But when you're around other like-minded and like-hearted people, you feel the difference. So if you want to join us, we definitely would love to have you join us, to love to have you share your experience and what you're going for. And we ignite ideas into real, meaningful growth, which obviously that's what Julie and I have been talking about. So we are just one invitation away. So feel free to reach out to me at theshaysparksshow.com and put makers in the body of the email, and I will send you an invitation to our next Inner Circle call. Well, Julie, we are going to shift gears now. And something that, we've really talked about with you is this whole full circle moments that you've had several times. And truthfully, it's, I think that's part of the process in growth is being able to be at a point and look back and just be like, wow, I can't believe I got here. Right. So, and you shared so many full circle moments with us already. So, is there any other full circle moments that you're like, wow, here we are. I'm now speaking on stage at Podfest at the podcast conference that I used to be like, yeah, I want to do that someday. Is there anything else that you want to share with us about having full circle moments?
I think it's just, recognizing when those moments and opportunities pop up that it's on us to take action and shoot our shot, right? Like even Podfest this year, I wasn't going to go. Honestly, I wasn't sure I could afford to go. And so when the applications closed, I just thought that was it. I'm just not going. I didn't send an application. They've closed the application. The time is over. I'm done. But I think it was October last year. They reopened the application process. They were like, we're looking for more speakers last minute. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, let me just send it in. If it's meant to be, I'll go.
Mm.
And sure enough, sure as shit, I definitely got approved. And I was like, well, I can come up with the funding on my own. Like, I'm resourceful. I know it's meant to be. So it will work itself out. And that trust, that faith really comes from jumping off too many times. Like, the more times I took risks, the less riskier some of the risks started to feel. Um, and so I think that's my other full circle moment here is, it's so easy to think like, I don't know if in 3 months I'll have enough money to go. It's like right after Christmas. People aren't really doing a lot of podcast episodes in December. So I don't think it's going to work out for me. But then recognizing that the opportunity to come and apply came up again. And I was like, well, don't ignore it. Just send your application in and have faith that, if it gets approved, the financial aspect of it will figure itself out.
Mm. And so it did.
It did. It did. So that trust, I think that intuition grows the more you take risks too. And the
Hmm.
more you see like, what's the worst case scenario here? What's his name? The Quest Bar guy. Um, Oh my gosh, what is his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he always says that, you should have a fear setting list. I'll send you his video. And it's
I've
like
never heard
way
that
out.
before.
Yeah, way out the worst thing that could happen, right? Like
Hmm.
if it's really not that bad, you should still do it.
I love that.
It's
I love
everything's
that.
figure outable, right? That's another book.
Oh,
Everything's
yeah.
figure outable.
Marie Folio. Yeah. Everything is figure outable. Yes.
There
I
you
love
go,
that.
Marie Folio. I like books. Can you tell?
Yes. I love that. I do too. I do too. I love books. So, speaking of being part of the inner circle, since you've been a part of it, which is just the beginning of this year, what have you noticed about yourself before the inner circle to where you are now?
I think before the inner circle, I thought, what is the point of joining a mastermind group?
Wow.
Like meeting once a week seems like a large commitment. The time didn't really seem like the best time for me. I joined other networking groups in the past. I've joined other mastermind groups in the past, but I like Shay. So what do I have to lose? And
Yay.
then after joining the group, I was like, I have to be here.
Mm.
Like, I don't care if the time doesn't work with my schedule. Like, it's like a gym membership. You made this commitment to sign up once a month. There's something pulling you here and you have to be here. Since being in our group, I have not only like grown a huge heart for our little group of people. Our little It's not a little group. It's a really nice group, and just the respect, right? Like there's a mentorship opportunity there. There's a collaborative. It feels good to be in a room with people that feel like they just get it.
Yeah.
So the full circle moment since being there to now is I thought masterminds were a little hokey and I hate spending money and I don't like talking in group settings. I don't like talking in general, which weird, right? I like talking. I love sharing and educating people and inspiring others. I don't like having the spotlight. I don't like when the attention is on me. And so I think being in a mastermind group where you feel almost like you're acknowledged, but not only are you acknowledged, but you're being asked to engage it was
Mm,
another outside of my comfort zone moment that I didn't realize I would appreciate as much as I do.
mm. Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there I so appreciate your energy every week when you're there. And I remember and I want to say this too. Thank you for making time to be there every week because I remember when we first started, you were like, yeah, that's not going to work for me and my schedule, but I'll be in the car, whatever. I'll just make it work. And I think you were in the car once. Every time you have made it work. And I'm so glad to hear that you see the benefit in it. So, is there a specific difference that other masterminds or the networking groups that you were like, yeah, that's not really what I want to do, than what we do? Is there a difference in your mind?
There's many differences, and I think, off the top of my head, just the culture, right? I think this group is unique in its own way that you just can't replicate it. You can't be like, I'm gonna go clone these people and put them in a room together. First and foremost, but then second, even the structure around it, right? I think you shared at the beginning, being able to celebrate those wins, even if someone doesn't feel like they have a win to celebrate, give them 10 minutes. They're going to think of something and, they're going to feel dumb that they didn't contribute something because everyone wants to celebrate them.
Right.
And, what they might not think is a win turns out to be a bigger win than they really gave it credit for initially. And I love seeing that. And we've been together long enough to where people are having those months where they're like, look, this is not a good month or this is not a good week. And it's it's nice to be with people in those moments and not feel so alone. I think in the kind of work that we do, especially if you are a podcaster and you're used to just talking to yourself like this, it can feel very lonely. And so having that community, I think, is very important. But I think the community that you have built here is one that is not like any other community I've ever been around.
Mm, wow. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
especially
sharing.
because there's a lot of men in it too, and you don't think they'd be so compassionate, you know? Like, I think about that's like the mindset I think I'm in a lot of, the weight of women is probably a lot heavier than men, like the ratio. And then here it's just like a lot more guys, but their perspective is so different, and that's nice too. I think having the balance is really something I didn't think I would appreciate as much as I do.
Good. Good. And I'll say this too about what you just said about when you're not having the good week. I just remember somebody recently was like, I'm just glad I'm here because everything has gone wrong. And I just know that in other groups that I've attended, there was always this like, you just keep it professional. You just talk about your job, you just talk about your work, like, don't talk about your family, don't talk about your personal life. And I wanted to be able, in my opinion, I believe personal growth is professional growth is personal growth. It's all together, right? And I wanted to have a space where it's you're doing life with each other, where it's professional or personal. And if you're having a bad day, then you can come to the group and be like, hey, I'm having a bad day. And more than likely, exactly what you just said, Julie, which I loved, which we saw a couple, I guess it was a couple months ago now. He had a bad day. He was going through this terrible thing. And then we're like, well, can you share a win? He's like, I don't have any wins. Like, there's not a win at all. Like you woke up, that's a win. Like
You could
you're
still hear,
healthy.
you could still see.
Yeah, like all the things that we take for granted, he had been taking for granted. And then he's like, you're right. There is all this other stuff. And he started naming it. And it was like, wow. And I just feel like it gave him that boost that he needed. And I feel like that's what we do in the accountability piece too. Like sometimes, and this is why selfishly, this is totally why I started it because I found myself needing an accountability buddy because I was living in an island, right? I work, at home. And so it was like, gosh, I really want to be around other creators who are also experiencing this and how can we come together and have that moment of time, 1 hour a week, to really be able to come have camaraderie and to find that, people are like, oh, yeah, I texted you. Did you get my text? And blah, blah, blah. And they're sending jokes back and forth. And I'm like, who are these people? Like, wow, this is so amazing. And people that I would never have thought would have been quote unquote friends have really developed deep, meaningful relationships in a community that is safe, you
Safe.
know,
That's the key
and
word, safe.
yeah,
There's a kinship there, and, it's almost like if you're not there, you miss out and you actually miss it, and I was talking to somebody recently and they're like, "Oh, you pay to be there?" Like, it was like, "I can't hang out, like, I got this other thing that I gotta go on." They're like, "Oh, is it like a work call?" And I was like, "Kinda." They're like, "You get paid for that?" I was like, "No, I actually pay them." They're like, "What?" And I was like, "You wouldn't get it."
yeah. I just had recently a conversation with another member, and they were saying that, and then they'd only been there a short time, and they were like, the benefit outweighs the investment. Like, why wouldn't I be there? Of course I would be there. Of course I would pay for this. This is amazing stuff that you just don't get in other networking spaces and other masterminds.
It's very true. It's true. And it's nice too also to be able to share like what we're challenged with and have that community support where it's like somebody else is like, "Yeah, man, I've been there."
Yeah. Julie, yeah, as you can tell, we could talk for hours. What as we wrap this up, we just have a few questions left. Of all the things we mentioned in your bio, you are a mom of two beautiful daughters, and you also are a volunteer helping people who have been trafficked. So with all the, and you have a voice for podcasting, you help other people use their voice. And all of that, what would you want to be remembered for? What would be your legacy?
Oh my gosh. I think about this a lot and it's like the compassion and the kindness. Like I just want people to feel like whatever stage in their life, they had somebody that just saw them as a person
Mm.
and cared about them and was always kind and loving towards them. Like I feel like that's like I'm in my funeral checking out what the people are saying. Like she was just always such a kind, loving person. I never felt like she
Mm.
judged me. I never felt like she looked down on me. Even if she didn't agree with my decision, I always felt like she supported me.
And you do. You're living that. You're an example of your legacy right now.
And not in like a fake woo-woo way. Like
Right.
my Enneagram is Enneagram 7, but then my genius was like, I'm enthusiastic. I want to support people. I want to hype you up and I want to gather the masses to make whatever your dream is come true.
I love it. I love it.
Everybody join the Maker's Mark.
Yes, yeah, go join us at the Maker's Machine. So, and I didn't mention I did not get to mention your website. So, how can people connect with you? What social medias do you like to play on? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram at Indie Mompreneur, and I have a website, the Business Podcast Editor. .com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I've been trying to be more active there, but really though, if you're on Instagram and you send me a message or you're posting on your stories, like let's talk on there. That's probably the easiest way to get in contact with me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Julie, thank you so much for your time. Your energy is always amazing, for being here today. And before you go, one last question. Is there a phrase, scripture, or mantra are you living by right now?
Wow. You know, that's so good. I wish I was more prepared for this. I should have thought of this one ahead of time.
No, that's why I asked, because it's right now.
Like do good and good will come back to you.
Mm.
Never get tired of doing good. I think in a world where it's so easy to be petty and like they treated me this way, so I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. No, don't do that. Don't be that person. Let's just remember to have kind hearts because you never know what people are going through. Do good and good will come back to you.
Well, you're a perfect example of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here.
I'm so glad I got to spend this time with you, Shay. This has been so wonderful.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I look forward to our inner circle call tomorrow.
Yes, please, everyone come join the Maker's Machine. I will be there. We can hang out. I would love that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on the Shay Spark Show. If Julie's wonderful wisdom lit a spark in you, I mean, how could it not? I'm sure you even took some notes. I mean, that's some of the things she was talking about, especially in the full circles. Like, this stuff is real, people. And she just said it. Do good and good will come back to you. You just heard her example of that. So please share this episode with one person that you believe needs to hear that it would inspire them. Just one, because we know that meaningful change starts with just one conversation. And if you're ready to ignite your own ideas into action, watch your business and life thrive, then join us for the Maker's Machine Inner Circle to keep your momentum going. Head over to theshaysparkshow.com and email me the word makers to get your special invitation to our next Inner Circle call. And until next time, keep investing in people and let's get fired up.